Are you blind when you're born? Can you see in the dark? Can you look at a king? Would you sit on his throne? Can you say that your bite is worse than your bark? Are you cock of the walk when you're walking alone? Because jellicles can and jellicles do, jellicles do and jellicles can, jellicles can and jellicles do, jellicles do and jellicles can, jellicles can and jellicles do. I think I kind of love cats now. Okay, full disclosure, since the age of about 6 or 7, I have been mildly creeped out to completely disturbed by Cats, the musical. Cats, the musical, there was a trailer for the 1998 recording of Cats. It was at the beginning of a video. I can't remember what video it was. I'm always going back to video trailers in this. But I just remember, just these little snippets of the songs, and I always find it really weird when you know a trailer off by heart, and yet you have never seen the finished product. I just remember seeing this trailer, and on one hand, being really curious about it and really kind of enthralled, and because I was always kind of into things that freaked me out. I did always enjoy the Return to Oz's and the Dark Crystals, and anything that was creepy I did enjoy, but this was more of an Uncanny Valley kind of a creepy, where it wasn't supposed to be creepy but came across as creepy. And then around the age of 9 or 10, I actually watched most of that production I think they were showing it on TV, and my whole family, we all grew up, we were all big musical fans, and none of us had actually seen Cats, and so we watched this production of it, and I think all of us kind of came away with it going, it's just cats singing about being cats. We were constantly waiting for the plot to kick in, and it almost never does. I mean, there's a loose upon loose plot, but yeah, it made little impact other than that was really weird, and I'm probably never going to watch it again. And all the while, just those little snippets of those songs from that one video trailer still remained at the back of my mind, just the jellicle cats, jellicle, just jellicle. And so, summer of, what was it, 2019? Was it the summer when the Comic-Con trailer came out? And I didn't even know this film was being made. And I saw it, and I think I remember tweeting something along the lines of, I was creeped out by this show as a child. But that trailer was also the thing of nightmares. Just the weird human-cat hybrid things. And I was like, well, I'm not going to see that movie. And even listening to the likes of the Empire podcast, where they were talking about, this is going to be a disaster, but they were also looking forward to talking about how much of a disaster it was going to be. And still, as the lead up went to it, I had zero intention in going to see it. I had a morbid curiosity, but not enough. And even reading, I read an article in Empire magazine. Empire's getting a lot of plugs today. It's a good magazine. It was an interview, I think, with Tom Hooper, the director, and he was explaining how, well, when that trailer came out, the effects weren't finished yet. It's going to be a different experience once people actually go and see it. Okay. In some ways it may have felt like damage control, but we shall see. And then comes December, and I was more looking forward to Rise of Skywalker, as was, I think, everybody. And all of the reviews started coming out, the big official reviews of Cats, and it was resoundingly negative, resoundingly this is terrible. And it really felt like Cats was just this critical punching bag that every single critic could just absolutely trash. And in some regards that's kind of true, but then myself and my wife, the curiosity kind of got the better of us. Curiosity killed cats, shall we say. And because we had just been hearing so many bizarre things about this film and so many interesting reactions to this film, that we kind of decided, let's go and see this film. And so we went to see the film, and that was a cinematic experience. It was amazing. It was literally, for the first at least 15 minutes of the film, I was getting these bizarre, just uncanny valley reactions, and also these really strange kind of almost like suppressed memories of the first memories, not those memories, of the first time I watched Cats, from literally the opening overture of the like it played on this really wonderfully 80s terrible synth, and it just, like, the music is terrifying. Like, there's nothing else about it. It's terrifying. And that's how the film opens. And I literally, for the first 15 minutes, curled up. And I watched it like this for the first 15, 20 minutes. And just when I thought that it was about to get less disturbing, it went back up. So, I love this film. Special effects wise, it's a mess. I think there are a lot of decisions made in this film that could have been much better. I think setting a very definite scale of how big these cats are would have been very much appreciated. I mean, to be quite honest, I think the whole thing would have worked better as an animated film, as actual cats. And upon since becoming interested in Cats the Musical again, I discovered that Steven Spielberg was trying to do that in the 90s, and it didn't get off the ground. And then also that T.S. Eliot's, was it daughter or granddaughter? She didn't really like the idea of them being turned into little pussycats. But upon hearing all of these songs and all of these lyrics based on these really adorable poems, I mean, they're quite nonsensical in some ways, but at the same time, cats are nonsensical, and I think that's kind of the point. You know, I think people are trying too much to make sense of this film, but they're cats. Cats have their own sense. And I think that's the point, that cats live in their own little world. Cats live in their own version of logic, and our feeble human minds simply cannot infiltrate the jellicle mind of the jellicle cat. I mean, the opening number of Jellicle Songs for Jellicle Cats was a roller coaster of just... it was a bombardment of just one thing leading to the other. You had cats climbing down the walls like Spider-Man, like cats don't do. You had just these intense close-ups. You had the music changing from, you know, relatively kind of orchestral to like heavy, like dance pump kind of music. And there was just so much to take in. And also on top of that, having these vague flashbacks to being a kid, being slightly freaked out by Jellicle Songs for Jellicle Cats, Jellicle Songs for Jellicle Cats. And then just when it kind of starts to calm down, then we get to the Jenny Anydots. I had a Gumby cat in mind. Her name is Jenny Anydots. She sits and sits and sits and sits, and that's what makes her Gumby cat. And that's what makes a Gumby cat. Played by Rebel Wilson, who has a lovely singing voice. She trained mice, and the mice are children, and the mice have children's faces on these mouse bodies, and it's like the cat bodies were kind of creepy, as it were, because occasionally some of the visual effects, like the faces just kind of like floating on top. They didn't use proper motion capture suits. They kind of had these semi-leotard, semi-backpack things from what I could see, and they kind of painted their faces, but they just like put these kind of rough dots all along them. Like it looked like how they did Gollum back in 2002, and it's like there's almost 20 years of technology. Wow, 20 years of technology. But there are almost 20 years of technology kind of having gone beyond that. But yeah, it's weird because they're not cats. I mean, the movement is wonderful, and I think that's what even the musical is very much well known for. The movement, the dance is gorgeous, but I think the major reaction that people are having to this is that that they can't watch it because the uncanny valley is just too much for them, and that's totally fair. And then on top of the little children mice, there are an army of cockroaches with human faces, and again, it's disturbing. But you know, it goes through the whole thing. I'm not gonna go through the entire film. I mean, Idris Elba is fantastic, because I think Idris Elba was the only actor there who kind of got the campiness of what this film would probably end up being. And when you go to scene of crime, McCavity's not there. Because he is just camping it up to all glory, and it's wonderful. Everybody else is taking it just a little bit more seriously, which is fair. Tom Hooper directed Les Mis, and that was serious as all hell. Yeah, Idris Elba was wonderful as McCavity. Just this, and I loved all throughout the background of all these kind of London cityscapes. There are just these wonderful cat puns on all of the products, like things are advertising milk, or things are advertising claws, or different things like that. And it's just like there was a lot of thought put into it, and I do love that it is actually based within London's West End, which is quite cool. In a little meta, this is where it started. But yeah, so I mean, the film trundles along. Pacing wise, it's actually quite good. The only one time where I felt the pacing just kind of dipped was it Skimbleshanks, the railway cat? Skimbleshanks, the railway cat, the cat on the railway train. Because it kind of felt after Gus the theatre cat, it's played by Ian McKellen, wonderfully, and Dame Judi Dench just sitting in her cat basket, watching him. It's wonderful. I love this film. But it kind of felt like, okay, cool, so we see where this is going now. Ian McKellen's going to get zapped away, and then McCavity's going to show up, and we're going to start heading towards the Jellicle choice, as is the loosest of loose plots there is. But the railway cat just kind of had a little bump in the track, shall we say. Skimbleshanks, as we hurtled towards it. But that being said, I also love that song, The Cat on the Railway Train. No. Because yeah, discovering all of this music, obviously rediscovering it with all of these nightmare-inducing images, and I literally mean nightmare-inducing. I have dreamt about this literally almost every night since seeing it. Seriously, I the night I actually saw cats, that night, the entire night was Cats' Dreams. And not Cats the animals, but Cats the human animal hybrid. Like, at least with the actual stage musical and even the 98 recording, you can see that they are costume and that they are people in costume with painted faces. One thing, because I have since now gone and rediscovered all of that show out of curiosity to see how it was done on the stage. But there's one major aesthetic choice that I think the film could have also made, that I think the show very wisely did, was the width of the heads. Almost all of the cats on stage have this big plume of hair coming out the side of their head, as well as the ears. But the film, they don't. They have relatively human-shaped heads with big cat ears on top. And it's weird because I think because we know that humans' ears are down here, but whenever the in the cat's makeup on the stage, when the plumes are out here, you're not missing the human ears. Whereas when you just have this big, like, slick fur along the side of the head, it almost looks alien and didn't quite work. I mean, Old Deuteronomy worked actually really well, played wonderfully by Dame Judi Dench, and because she had the big plume and she actually looked like a cat, and Gus the theatre cat as well looked much more like a cat, because I think the plume helped. I think they could have given more of a little cat nose, just so that it wasn't like a human nose, like just to paint on a little bit, because yeah, it was strange. It was like the island of Dr. Moreau, just these bizarre human animal hybrids. And there was one point where Victoria was in the house with what are they called? Mungo Jerry and Rumpelteazer, and the dog comes running to the door, and I think even the film decides, do you know what? We're not going to go down that route. We don't want even to begin to think about what will that dog look like. It's like, will it come in as a fully formed dog? Or will it come in as this bizarre dog-human hybrid? Who's to know? But both unfortunately and thankfully, the dog remains behind the door and is left entirely to our own bizarre imaginations. But yeah, the film trundles along nicely and finishes off as Grisabella, played by Jennifer Hudson, flies off into the Heaviside layer, and then Judi Dench just looks straight at camera and tells and sings an entire song about how to address a cat. Just when you think the film is kind of going to wrap up and she's flying away, no, you have to know that a cat is not a dog. And everybody else is like looking at her, almost kind of like, who is she talking to? But all the while she is talking to us. So I think this film has the potential, and I've heard a couple of people saying this now, but I was thinking this while I was in the cinema, and I hope it does, because it will be thoroughly entertaining. I genuinely think this film has the potential of being like Rocky Horror Picture Show or The Room, where people go to screenings of it to actually interact with the film and to shout up at the screen, because it's so ripe for it, and I think it would just add to it. And not only that, the music is actually class, so much so let's see if I can do this without, there we go, there's no reflection there. I bought the soundtrack. Jellicle Songs for Jellicle Cats has been my jam in the car. The overture, which deeply disturbed me and had me sitting crumpled up for 15 minutes. in the cinema is my jam in the car. Skimbleshanks the railway cat. Is it Skimbleshanks? Skimbleshanks. Skimbleshanks the railway cat, the cat of the railway train. Skimbleshanks the railway cat is just, it's so playable, and I think hearing the music disattached from the disturbing imagery actually then helps the music, and the music is really well produced. Rum Tum Tugger, played by Jason Derulo. Wow. Just musically, the bass guitar and the synth, and it's a damn good tune. Like it's really well produced. Because I have since kind of gone back and listened to the big full orchestra version that they did in '98, and I'm like, okay, I'm still not a massive fan of that, but I'm really feeling this. And the arrangement of Jellicle songs for Jellicle cats is like, it feels very much akin to, and I think upon thinking about that, whatever that means, I think it's quite clear that they were aiming for the Greatest Showman style, the Greatest Showman audience. And I'd say if the visuals weren't as disturbing, but then I suppose there are a lot of people who are really complaining about the plot, but I think that's where the soundtrack actually comes in handy, because I'm really enjoying the lyrics to these songs. I'm really enjoying just the little portrait of each cat that each song portrays, and it's quite adorable. Like Jenny Anydots, who sits and sits and sits and sits, and that's what makes her Gumby cat, whatever that means. And that's what makes a Gumby cat. But then at night she gets up and she goes and does all sorts of different things. What's his name? Busterford Jones, who just eats, but he doesn't just eat out of the trash can. He eats out of the finest of winest of wonderful trash cans. Why am I calling them trash cans, John? You're Irish. Bins. Eats out of bins. You know, it's based in London. They call them bins there as well. So he goes and he eats out of bins. Trash cans. I'm married to a Canadian, so maybe I have a bit of an excuse, but bins. So he eats out of bins in London. But you know, he eats in the classic clubs around St. James's Street. And who else is there? There's Mungo Jerry and Rumpelteazer, who knock stuff over in the house and steal stuff, and and when I just love how, and I think this is why it would have worked really nicely as actual cats. Like, I mean, looking at what they did with The Lion King, and I mean, that film had problems in it in a lot of different ways, but like looking at how realistic they could have made those cats, but obviously with much more expressive faces. But I think that's where it would have worked really well, because then you could have had actual human people, coming in. But then would that have worked as a film, as just this little anthology of T.S. Eliot poems? But it doesn't really work as a film as is. I suppose I do kind of love it. Yeah, I just love these little portraits of these little cats, and listening to it again and again in the car, I can hear it more, and I can hear the lyrics better without being deeply disturbed by what's going on screen. And I really enjoy it, and I really, really hope that also magical Mr. Mistopheles, and just that whole idea of where did that spoon go, and then later it shows up in the garden. Oh well, I never And they all say, oh, well, I never saw there ever a cat so clever as magical Mr. Mistopheles. I really, really want to go to a screening of that where everyone knows it as well as they do Rocky Horror Picture Show and are able to shout. You know, like whenever Victoria gets to the end of Jellicle Cats and they just all of a sudden stop singing and she keeps singing like Homer Simpson singing Monorail. And, you know, I just want to shout up at the screen, way to go, Victoria! You know, something maybe a little bit more expletive than that. This is my new favourite film. I mean, it's probably not going to remain up at the top favourite films. I mean, but and I am enjoying it very ironically. But I love it nonetheless. And that's all I can say about it right now. I hope it has the legs to continue in the cult classic screenings genre, because I will be there for, and I may even dress up like a cat. In fairness, all I'd have to do would be to gel up my hair, and I'd already be cat-like. Be a big ginger cat. So those are my thoughts about Cats. It is my new guilty pleasure. And I implore you all to watch it. But if you're going to watch it, go into it knowing that it's going to be not good. Because that allowed myself and my wife to enjoy it so much more. Because I've seen some people reacting to this film going, you know, oh, I went into this because I love cats and this was just deeply disturbing. You're setting yourself up for a fall there. But, oh, wow. We had a roller coaster. So here's to the screenings of Cats. Skimble Shanks the railway cat, the cat of the railway train. Thank you so much, folks, for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. You can follow me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I'm about to get onto TikTok, so watch this space. I may already be on there, who's to know? Also, you can support us on Patreon. You can support the making of these videos, of the various podcasts that I do, and the Manny Man Does History videos, which I have been producing for years now. So hop on to Patreon to support the creation of all of these wonderful things, and we have all sorts of wonderful rewards as well. So thank you so much. Let me know in the comments what else you'd like me to talk about, because I would like to talk about a lot of different things. So, see you soon. And they all say, oh, well, I never saw there ever a cat so clever as magical Mr. Mistopheles.